Who ate a poisonous mushroom this time?
We may leave at any time.
Port Ormos. No, I didn't design any one specific building. Most of my work here concerned structural renovation. Port Ormos had already existed since I was still a young child. It wasn't as large as it is now, though. It only came to its current size after a sizable expansion. I was part of that project. The arch bridge over there, for example, that was one of my designs. When I was first tasked with the project, I decided to reference the growth patterns of nearby trees to split Port Ormos into 2 levels. My goal was to improve the overall utilization of space. We ran into a lot of issues during construction, but thankfully, we were still able to achieve the original vision. Residents can now behold all the ships entering and leaving the harbor from the vantage point of the bridge, while visitors can recognize the site of Port Ormos from a long ways away. I was still young and new to the trade back then. I could hardly believe that an idea in my head could become reality and remain in the world for many years to come. The true cornerstone of the creative process. The point about the design that will be ultimately used to judge its true worth. It was once built, a building will continue to stand. Countless people will see it, and countless more will step inside it. Its final worth, whether it's good or bad, will be assessed by the countless generations of people that interact with the building during their lives. You think so? I'm glad to hear that. But even with this project, I still had one small regret. My budget was tight, and I was unable to use the higher quality timber I had originally intended for the design. I knew that some concessions on aesthetics would be needed as soon as I agreed to a proposal that prioritized the practical functions of the project. Us creative types know better than anyone that most projects cannot be completed without a few regrets. Even the Palace of Alcazarzare was not perfect. Yeah, you're right. I should learn to look toward future opportunities, and believe that any regrets I have can be overcome in time. We've spent long enough here. There's still one last place I want to go, but it's a little far. Would you be interested in a quick trip to the desert? Great. Most of my projects over the last few years have had something to do with the desert, partially because there's a special place there that I often visit. This is a rare opportunity, so why don't you come along and see it for yourself? If you ever feel down, maybe you'll be able to go there and feel better too. Who would have thought that so many primal constructs could have congregated here while I was gone? We won't be able to sit and talk peacefully with these guys around. Let's clear the area.
There is no escape! No, my sword!
One with the force. I hear everything.
Sight clear.
Illusion shattered.
Scanning.
Go as planned.
Watch and learn. Come at me.
Rain outlines your fate. Rain cutter.
Isn't this place great? I often come here to clear my mind when I'm dealing with a difficult situation. You know what I mean. Everyone finds themselves in frustrating situations once in a while. Just take me as an example. My family life got shaken up quite a bit when I was young. I struggled in school, and I got into a huge pile of debt building the Palace of Alcazarzaray. Although Alhaitham thinks that it's because of my personality that I continue to live in the shadow of the past, I think it's also just a part of life. Plus, you could probably say I followed in the path of my mother. Like her, I've gained a name for myself as an architect, built something that's seen as my magnum opus, and found many projects that others have entrusted to me to finish. Life is too boring when you live with no enthusiasm and passion. Only those who believe in the inherent meaning of it can capture the small nuances of everyday life and turn them into inspiration for beautiful designs. Of course, I will concede that loving something also means taking it to heart. So to an extent, caring is also a source of pain. If I didn't love my work, I wouldn't be so torn up about it all the time. But still, isn't this place beautiful? Despite the erosion from the winds and changing seasons, you can still perceive its past beauty and glory. With different landforms come different architectural styles. The desert's history has left it with few records regarding its buildings, so I often visit the desert to investigate things in person. The sight here has moved me ever since the first time I laid my eyes on it. I told myself that one day, I would also be able to create buildings that move others. My pain will one day fade into nothing just as I reach the end of my life. But buildings are different. They are far more valuable than most materialistic things, and far more durable than human flesh. As long as there remain souls in the world who can decipher the meaning behind them, they will also have acknowledged me across the vast stream of time. If you were to ask me what art is, that would be my answer. You think so? But I feel I've always been like this. Remember that question I brought up before? The one about whether I should see art as a divine gift of inspiration from the gods, or as a product of my own existential struggle. I still haven't found an answer to that yet, but if art wasn't inherently paradoxical and enigmatic, then people probably wouldn't be drawn to it. Those who pursue art will be unable to avoid the pain that it naturally brings. Will often be floating on cloud 9 one second, and sinking in a mire the next. I'll try gathering my thoughts again once I've found a way to define art in the first place. In any case, thank you so much for listening to everything I had to say. Taking this commission was truly the worst decision ever. Oh, hey, I wasn't expecting to run into you here. Actually, while we're on that, what are you doing here at the tavern? Don't listen to anyone who says that drinking is an elegant pastime. It's no good for your health. So you saw all that, did you? Ugh, I thought I was in the clear. I made sure to double-check that nobody I knew was around. Anyway, thanks for looking out for me. Honestly, it wasn't that big of a deal. I'm used. Stress is just an inescapable part of being a working adult. Boss, I'll have a glass of wine. Same as last time. Do you want something too? I'll put it on my tab.
Wine and a glass of juice coming right up.
I know you're already keeping a secret from me, but if you could add this one to the list as well, I'd really appreciate it. Arguing with a client is not a good look for me. If word gets out, other potential clients might be afraid to work with me. That guy, though, what was he even going on about? All those ridiculous demands of his? He's just a blabbering fool trying to act like a know-it-all. Another glass, please, boss. I'm not leaving today till someone has to carry me out.
You've got it, sir. I gotta say, though, it almost feels like you're saying that every other day now.
It really is every other day that you'd run into a client who knows nothing about construction requirements or architectural style. If this was in the past, I'd never have gone through 6 whole drafts trying to accommodate the client's preferences. But perhaps getting used to this just means that I've grown numb to it. I've worked on so many projects since graduation, and none of them have been approved at the first pass. I would spend a lot of time altering my designs, and by the time the clients were finally satisfied, all my passion and enthusiasm would be gone. It feels like I'm straying further and further from my artistic vision with every change I have to make. I suppose, though, that just sticking to your guns and completely disregarding other people's feedback would also not be a good thing. All of this makes for a real paradox, one that particularly crops up in my work, too. In the end, what is the true meaning of art? Should I see it as a divine gift of inspiration from the gods, or an expression of the light of my own wisdom?
Here's your drink. How are you already spouting nonsense after just one glass? Your tolerance is usually much better than that.
Boss, what do you think is the meaning of art?
The meaning of art? Really, my friend, who in Sumeru understands art better than you? Anyway, I don't know about art, but I do know that I'm interested in business, and some patrons are waiting to be served. So, you'll have to excuse me for now. Just holler if you need anything.
What do you think, traveler? No worries. It was just an offhand question. It's been bothering me for a while. Even when I'm awake, the question haunts me like a bad dream. I still haven't found a good answer to it. Or maybe there was never a correct answer in the first place. Sounds great to me. I don't even want to think about this project anymore. But what should we do? It's a different career. I see. That's not a bad idea. I think I've heard a saying somewhere before. 80% of a working adult's woes are due to not having enough mora in the bank. It's just a saying, of course, but even I will admit that my life would be a lot better if I could make additional mora. And if I want to make mora, I should finish that ridiculous commission. But I really can't find it in me to go back and talk to him right now. Hold on. I just remembered that I used to have a senior classmate by the name of Alkami. If memory serves me right, he's no longer taking private commissions, but he's still doing pretty well for himself. Maybe I'll be able to get some advice from him. Yeah, I should get on this right away. No more wine for me today. I'll grab the bill and be on my way.
Ah, Kaveh, it's you! It's been a while. What have you been up to recently?
Yeah, it's been a long time, Alkami. Things haven't changed much for me. I'm still taking private commissions for all kinds of projects.
I heard that you were the genius behind the Palace of Alcazar. I bet you're all set for Mora after a project of that size.
Well, it's hard to make a profit from every project, you know?
Hard to make a profit? You've got to be joking. I've never met an architect who didn't make a profit from a project. Unless the client fled before they paid the commission fee in full. But that doesn't sound right either. Doesn't Dory have a pretty decent reputation in our local business circles? I don't think she's ever been involved in any kind of big scandal.
Well, about that. I mean, it was complicated.
I understand. Either way, doing one project after another sure gets exhausting over the years, huh? I've been there, so I can feel your pain. I mean, I obviously never had your reputation to live up to. That must have been stressful. But I'm sure we've faced all the same problems. Trying to keep your client in a good mood while you're trying to stop them from micromanaging things they don't know the first thing about. I don't miss it. Thankfully, that's all behind me now. Not exactly. My work is still closely related to architecture. Judging from the look on your face, you're still strapped for Mora. That's quite unfortunate. You're the most artistically gifted graduate the Ksharawar Darshan has seen in decades. But it looks like you still have a lot to learn in terms of making Mora. With that said, Us Kasharawa grads should still look out for each other. What?
Are you serious? But something like that has got to be some kind of top-level business secret. Are you sure you can just share something like that with me? Besides, I don't want to just take something like that without offering anything in return. I still have a little mora. Or is there something that I can help you with?
Oh, you're too kind. This is just a simple tip. Even if I didn't bring it up, I'm sure you'd hear it from the others sooner or later. The idea is this. I recently opened up a training center with the goal of educating people in architecture design. Compared to the classes taught by those old fossils at the academia, my classes are more condensed and streamlined and will allow people to quickly get their foot in the door. Unlike the academia, I won't turn down anyone who's interested, rich or poor. As long as someone wishes to learn more about architecture, I'll accept them into my training center. It just so happens that I'm still looking for a few more instructors. So, what do you say? Interested in coming over to give a few lectures? Regardless of the pay, I can already guarantee that it'll be far more comfortable than working on random people's private commissions.
Ah, so you want me to join you as an instructor? That does sound like something I'd be able to do. It sounds like a pretty stable job, too. What do you think, Traveler?
Then it's a deal?
Yes, it's a deal. Thank you, Alkami.
Oh, like I said, there's no need to thank me for this. The lecture room is not far from here, so you can just come straight here tomorrow morning. As for the pay, how about we start at 300,000 mora per lecture?
300,000? Are you serious? How could you offer so much?
It would seem that you're still oblivious to your own economic worth. 300,000 is nothing compared to the prestige of having the light of Kasharawa as one of my instructors. 300,000 is also just the base rate. Just trust me on this. The longer you stick with me, the more you'll come to understand your true value in the market. I have to go make some preparations now. See you tomorrow.
I was never particularly close with Alkami when we were in school. Who would have thought that he'd be so nice and friendly? I've hosted free lectures before, but this would be my first time being hired to lecture for a formal business. 300,000 mora per lecture. Whew! I'm so excited that I'm starting to get nervous. Thanks so much. I think I will be able to relax a bit more with a friend in the audience. Now, what should I talk about tomorrow? Some lessons I've learned over the past few years? I should probably save those for later. For my first lecture, I should start by getting them more interested in the field. Alright, let's meet here again tomorrow morning. I should hurry home and create some kind of lesson plan. If I'm going to become an instructor, I should make sure I show up prepared.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's all part of the learning process.
Can we eat them?
Oh, I didn't expect you two to get here so early.
I was up last night preparing for the lecture, but I ended up getting so excited that I couldn't fall asleep. Here, I've prepared a lesson plan. Do you want to take a look?
Lesson plan? I must commend you for your dedication. But the training center has already developed its own set of teaching materials. Instead of using your own plan, you can just use what we have here. Of course, you're always welcome to work in some of your own content to add some fun and flavor. Sure, be my guest. It's almost time for the lecture to start. Feel free to head in and start the class whenever you're ready.
Huh. So you've already developed your own set of teaching materials. Seems like I won't need the stuff I've prepared after all. Anyway, there's something else I want to ask, though. This isn't going to be a large class, is it?
No need to stress. There are only 20 people in this class. There are 14 classes at my training center. Out of all of them, the first class has the best grades, so I've directed them to you. We'll see how well they take to your lectures.
20 people, huh? All right. I think I can handle that.
Oh, and one last thing. In the interest of keeping a quiet learning space, only instructors and students are allowed in the classroom when class is in session. I'm sorry to say this, but your friend will have to wait outside while you teach the class.
Sorry about that. I'll meet you at the door when the class is over, then.
Hey there. Can I help you? Oh, Alkami? You mean that rich guy who's been making quite the name for himself? Yeah, he commissioned a set of furniture from me a while back. Paid a great deal of mora for it, too. I heard he earned a fortune working as a renowned architect. Now he's opened a training center so others can follow in his footsteps. If the tuition wasn't sky high, I'd enroll my child in a heartbeat. Architecture really sounds like a lucrative profession.
Did you hear? Alkami recruited Kaveh to be an instructor.
I bet that'll boost his enrollment numbers.
Really makes you jealous, eh? If you think about it, Alkami was never that talented himself as an architect. If we're just talking about professional skill, no one would pay for a class with him.
That's true, but you've got to admit, his advertisements are really effective. After all, the academia only admits those that can pass its entrance exam, so only a few people could hope to study architecture in the halls of the Kasharwar. For those who can't pass the exam, or who just want to jump straight into the industry, the training center is the best bang for the mora.
Man, to have that kind of business acumen.
All right, everyone. There's no need to be nervous. Class is over, so we can just chat for a bit. I shouldn't have lost my temper during the lecture. Did I scare anybody?
No, you weren't scary at all, Mr. Kaveh. We were just a bit lost and didn't get what you were talking about.
Oh, don't get me started. I was trying to use Alkami's materials, so I flipped through some pages and gave them a closer look. The more I read, the more upset I became. Alkami may fool an amateur, but he can't fool anyone who's active in our profession. The materials he made are completely useless for teaching real architecture. In my opinion, the most important skill of an architect is their ability to craft a design. In other words, they must be able to conceptualize ideas. There are tens of thousands of buildings in the world, as well as a countless number of architectural styles. Some designs emphasize aesthetics, while others prioritize practicality. The architects who can critically evaluate the quality and fit of different designs are those who can come up with great designs of their own. But you won't get any of that from the teaching materials they're using here. All these students are doing in class is rote memorization of existing designs. They are learning nothing about the underlying principles. How can they expect to become real architects? When they're done with this class, all they'll become are dilettantes with a pitiful smattering of architectural knowledge.
But Mr. Kaveh, we didn't really understand anything you said after you threw away the materials either. What's the big deal anyway? It's not like we're looking to make some works of art. We just want to make some Mora.
You're studying architecture to make Mora?
Yeah! Why else would we be studying here? My biggest dream is to become someone like Mr. Alkami. Once I finally make my fortune in architecture, I'll be able to buy anything I like.
In that case, I'm afraid you'll probably be disappointed. The reality is that the work of an architect is very difficult, and the pay is not lucrative at all. Believe me, I'm a perfect example.
But how? Mr. Alkami just told us last night that you made a killing by building the Palace of Alcazarzare. He also said that as long as we graduate from his class, waves upon waves of people will reach out to us with private commissions, and we can just sit back and wait for Mora to fill up our pockets. It won't be long before I can put these miserable days behind me.
Come on. And you all believed everything he said?
But Mr. Alkami is really rich, isn't he?
You... It's pointless trying to argue this with you right now. You've already filled your heads with pipe dreams. Let's go, traveler. Let's hear about Alkami's true plans from the man himself.
Keep up.
What's wrong, Kaveh? You look quite flustered. Did one of my students offend you? Were the students not astute enough for your liking? I must implore you to go a bit easier on them. After all, they're nothing like the genius scholars you're used to dealing with at the academia. We don't need to strive for perfect understanding. As long as some knowledge has been passed on, that's good enough.
Yeah, I'm mad at them. But I'm even more upset that you're scamming people under the guise of teaching them about architecture. The students are all here hoping for a quick way to make money, but we both know that an architect's life is hard and exhausting. Just a little while ago, I was toiling over the 6th draft of a design for a client. If your client is unhappy, you can't break ground, and the longer a project goes, the longer it takes for you to get paid in full. What's worse, if your client disappears in the middle of a project, good luck getting anything from them ever again. You know all of this just as well as I do. Why lie to them?
Look, Kaveh, you may be the light of Ksharawar, but like I said, you still have a lot to learn about making Mora. You may deny it all you want, but it's a fact that in today's Sumeru, architecture is a terrible profession. Our clients care very little for the effort we pour into our designs. Instead of appreciating us, they spend all their time nitpicking details and demanding changes, often forcing all kinds of ridiculous ideas onto us.
I suppose that's more or less true. Go on.
Why should we cling on to a profession that's difficult and unrewarding? If the field is dying, then a person who still wants to make a good living will just have to change their strategy. If it's near impossible to make money as an architect, then why not just establish a training center and train other people to become architects in our stead?
Wait, how does that make any sense? Aren't you just leading them into the same trap?
We are already stuck, my friend. The more people we can lead into this pit and stack as padding beneath our feet, the more comfortable our lives will be. That's right. Making money as an architect is a slow and agonizing process. In comparison, earning tuition from a training center is far easier. None of the students will ever know, however. In their eyes, all of my income was earned during my years as an architect. It's easy for them to fall for my promise. After all, everyone wants to live the dream of being the person who can spend millions without batting an eye. The more students I get, the more money I earn. And the more real that dream becomes.
And then what? Once they graduate, they'll still find out the truth about architecture and struggle to stay afloat amid all the problems we already talked about. When that happens, your facade will pop like a soap bubble. No one will believe you anymore.
But that's just one way to look at the problem. No two people have the same amount of talent. Even if they fail to strike gold in the future, you can't say that it's my fault and mine alone. Oh, and also, I never actually promised that they would achieve financial freedom as long as they become architects. All I did was nudge them towards that belief. I'm not even scared if they do come back and stir up trouble. My training center has all the required permits and certifications. Even the Dendro Archon herself couldn't find fault in any part of my business.
How can you sleep at night knowing that you're doing all this? Tell me, is your heart carved out of brick and stone? I can't believe that I once saw you as a decent human being. I am beyond disappointed in you.
And the same goes to you. How many years has it been since you graduated from the academia? If you still can't accept something like this, do you just plan on keeping that worthless naivete of yours until the end of time? Only fools will see art as revered and sacred. In the end, art is just another business. Being successful at running a business is an art form in itself. I urge you to think about what I've said. Offloading your pain onto others is the only way a person can live comfortably in this world. As the light of the Ksharowa, you've accumulated plenty of fame and respect. It's high time that you use those resources to improve the circumstances of your own life. Think it over, Kaveh. I still believe our collaboration could be very fruitful.
I'm so mad, I feel a headache coming on. There's nothing more I can say to him. I'll resign from my position as instructor. Of course. I'm sure you've realized that as long as I remained at this center, he would be able to use my name to advertise this place. Even if I just sit back and do nothing, others will be deceived and suffer because of me. He is right about one thing, though. These kinds of training centers are everywhere. And even if the academia was to find out about it, it's unlikely that they would take any real action against it. The most that they could accuse him of is false advertising. And even that would be hard to prove. Oh? Did you notice something else? Yeah, you've got a point. The rate he gave me was 300,000 mora per lecture. That probably came out of the students' tuition. And who knows just how much he's been charging the students for attending his classes. If you're gambling everything on making it rich as an architect, are you really going to have the mora to pay for that kind of tuition? Right. We should hurry. The students didn't believe a word I was telling them. They're still daydreaming about making millions. We're never going to get any information from them again if we let Alkami talk to them first. Let's move now before he's had the chance to react. where he's had the chance to react.
Oh, Mr. Kaveh? What are you doing back here?
Class finished a while ago, but you're still here. What?
I wanted to stay for a little longer. I'm still thinking about everything you taught during the class. Even though a lot of it went right over my head, I still thought the houses you drew were really pretty.
Of course they were. All the examples I drew were world-famous landmarks. Each one was the magnum opus of a celebrated architect. It's a good thing that you could recognize them for their beauty. The accumulation of knowledge is the first step to artistic expression. Instead of rote memorization, you should try to relate and to understand, and after that, try to resonate with the work.
Resonate?
Yes. When I first got into architecture, there were many things about it that I couldn't understand at all. I would find a building to be beautiful, but have no idea what made it so good. And for most people, just being able to admire a building is enough. To become a good architect, however, you must also learn to assess and appraise. Going from admiration to assessment will take a lot of time and specialized knowledge, and I'm afraid that some superficial speed training won't be enough to take you there.
Just as I thought. Becoming an architect won't be as easy as Mr. Alkami made it out to be, right?
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to crush your dreams. All I want to tell you is that an architect's life is not as carefree and easy as others may make it out to be.
I understand. Thank you for telling me the truth, Mr. Kaveh. I think I'll still stay here for the time being, though, since my family still hasn't paid everything off.
Paid off what?
Sorry, I can't say anything more. Mr. Alkami made it very clear that anyone who talks about it will be kicked out of the class.
Don't listen to him. I am the most famous architect in Sumeru. If he kicks you out, then I'll just take you in instead.
Really?
Why would I pull your leg? I can see you have some talent, so as long as you get your fundamentals down, you should be able to pass the entrance exam and continue your studies at the academia.
Then please keep this a secret for me, Mr. Kaveh. Truth be told, my family is not very well off, so we couldn't really afford the tuition for this class. Mr. Alkami was the one who reached out to my parents. He told them that he knew a merchant by the name of Bahar and that we could get a loan from him. He told all the students that once we graduate, people would come flocking to commission us for projects. If everything went well, we'd be able to pay off everything in just a few years, and all the more we make after that would be ours.
How much did your family borrow from this merchant?
I think it was several million mora.
And what was the interest rate?
I'm not really sure. My parents were the ones who signed the contract. All I know is that the stack of papers was as thick as a slab of rock.
Yeah, I have a bad feeling too. So we need to find that merchant to confirm. But if we were to confront him right now, there's no way he'd admit to anything. Good idea. Hey, tell me, do you know where we'd be able to find this merchant?
We last saw him on the north shore of Port Ormos. Who knows if he's still in that area, though.
Well, it'd still be worth taking a look. Architecture... No. The arts shouldn't be used as bait for a scam. We need to do something before the students' lives are ruined even further.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen you guys before. Here for business?
You're Fahar, right?
Yes. May I ask who introduced you?
Alkami. My friend here wants to enroll in his architecture class, but they're a bit short on money. Alkami told us you're the man to go to in this kind of situation.
Oh, sounds like his business is booming. How much do you need?
Let me see. I'd say around 3 million mora.
Oof, you call that a bit short on money? Anyway, since you're here because of Alkami, I can work things out for you. Make sure you sign the contract, though. Lots of people are borrowing money from me nowadays. Ah, here you go. Don't worry, there's nothing particularly unusual about it. All you need to do is pay back the loan in full within 3 years.
And what if they won't be able to pay it back?
What do you mean, won't be able to pay it back? Once you graduate from Alkami's place, you'll be making millions of mora a year. Easy! At that point, paying this off will be a piece of cake. And even if you were to run into some difficulties and need to delay the installments, it's no big deal. We're all reasonable people here. If you can't pay quickly, you can just pay it back over a longer period. All that would change is your interest rates would get a little higher. It's hard work running a business. If we're taking risks to supply you with mora, it's only fair that you take on a bit of the financial risk as well. Anyway, there's no point in tying yourself in knots over the contract. With the way you're reading every single line, it's like you're worried you're about to get scammed out of your whole life savings. Why would I lie to you? Tons of students at Alkami's place have signed the contract. Aren't they all doing pretty well for themselves?
I just did some calculations in my head. When you say the interest will get a little higher, do you mean it'll get higher than 30%? Of course, the contract did a great job of trying to obfuscate that fact. It only listed the amount that you'll have to repay every day, which gives the false impression that the amount hasn't actually increased by all that much. If you actually do the math, however, it's clear that the amount you need to pay on interest alone will amount to hundreds of thousands of mora per year. Most people can't even make that much mora in a year. Your greed really knows no bounds. Even my creditor doesn't dare to raise rates that high. Once a family's signed on to a scheme like this, there's no getting out.
What are you trying to say, huh? I figured something was off when two well-dressed people came looking for a loan. Think you got the better of me? Too many people are sticking their noses where they don't belong these days. Luckily for me, though, this is a pretty secluded spot. Hey, come out and teach these guys a lesson!
Eremites? I've already fought off more than my fair share of them when I was working in the desert. There are only a few of them, so they shouldn't pose much of a threat. Marak, you're up! That's close enough!
Shine down!
Sight clear!
No, my sword!
And Shroud!
Come at me!
Witness the power of Gugwa!
Illusion shattered!
I'll be back. Sight clear! Up your sleeve!
Who are you and what do you want? I don't think we've done anything to hurt or offend you, so why go this far to destroy my livelihood?
Debt has the power to upend your whole life. I know very well just how miserable living in debt can be. But my debts are the culmination of many different factors, and my interest rate is still somewhat reasonable. As long as I continue to work with my situation in mind, my debts will eventually be paid off. But these students are different. They have neither the mental preparation nor the financial resources to pay back a debt like this. You sold the dreams of becoming an architect to the students as bait, urging them to take on insurmountable amounts of debt to satisfy your greed.
Ha! Everyone knows there's no such thing as a free lunch. It's their own fault for falling into the trap. And if we're going to talk about greed, aren't those students the ones who are blinded by it? They completely ignore the risk that's right there in front of them.
Ha! And here comes the silver tongue. Surely you use that to reel in the students as well. Even now, many of them are still hopelessly dreaming of striking gold after they graduate. People grow by learning from their mistakes. I hope this will be a valuable lesson to them. Let's head back to the academia and turn this guy over to the Matra. They should be able to link him with Alkami's business. I know. Didn't think I would run into you here.
My vacation just ended not too long ago, so I'm going over some cases at the academia. Who's this? I see. Charging an interest rate over 30% indeed constitutes a crime. As it is highly likely that Alkami is also benefiting from this scheme, the Matra will open an investigation on him as well. The training center will be closed until further notice. Any funds we manage to recover from the suspects will be returned to the students. It's unclear how much we'll be able to get back, however, given their extravagant spending.
That should still be enough. Once the students realize the error of their ways, they won't fall so easily for such traps in the future. Anyway, thank you for your help. I hope this won't be too much trouble for you.
It's no trouble. Just another day at work. How did you two get tangled up in this anyway? Did you accept any mora from him?
He promised to pay me 300,000 mora per lecture, but I resigned as soon as I finished the first session. I didn't take a single coin.
Ah, that's good.
What do you mean, that's good? Would you have taken me into custody as well if I had actually accepted any Mora?
I wouldn't have gone that far. But, had he insisted that you were also an active participant in his schemes, under our rules, we would have been required to open an investigation on you as well. Either way, though, I believe you are innocent in all of this. Had you actually been alright with making money through less than noble means, your life wouldn't be the mess it currently is.
Hey, what was that? What do you mean my life is a mess?
Never mind. Your life is fine.
You're just messing with me now, aren't you?
Let's get back to business. If Alkami's case can be successfully resolved, you'll be eligible for a monetary reward from the Academia. Don't forget to pick it up after the fact.
Huh. I didn't even know there was such a thing. I never would have guessed. What I'm trying to say is that we didn't report Alkami because we thought we could make some more off of it.
The reward will be given regardless of your personal motivations. It was implemented with the intent of encouraging people to supply tips to the Matra.
Fine.
Is there anything else?
I want to go back to the training center one more time and talk to some of the kids.
Sure, but you should wait until tomorrow. My subordinates will shut down the center today, and summon the students to gather information on the total amount of Mora they've lost in the scam.
Alright, then I'll stay out of their way. I can talk to the kids tomorrow.
I have a few other things to take care of, so I'll be off for now. If you want to follow up on this case, just come find me again. Or...
That should finally be the end of that. Oh, who would have thought it would turn out like this? All I wanted was to find a new gig and earn some Mora. To think Alkami would sink this low, it still makes me really upset. Still, I think I feel a little better now than when you found me back at the tavern. It's a little ironic, but you could say it's because I've realized that there are many circumstances in the world that are even worse than my own. Now that I've seen such things firsthand, I suppose I've earned a new sense of appreciation for my life. How should I put it? I'm pretty stubborn when it comes to my profession, so I often argue with my clients. The arguments are usually extremely frustrating, and every once in a while I'd wonder if I only became an architect because fate wanted me to pay for some sins I'd committed in a previous life. Alkami's suggestion would have allowed me to quit my life as an architect and earn money solely from my reputation. But now that I've experienced that for myself, I can confidently say that I'd never want to do it again. Every scholar has their own sense of pride and a line that they don't like to cross. Of course, when faced with the vicissitudes of life, some will surrender these things to seek a more comfortable life. I can understand that. Just speaking for myself, though, I don't think that's something I'd ever be able to do. The voice in my heart would just keep repeating one thing. The moment I turn away from my dreams would be the moment my career ends. If I stopped devoting everything to my creative activities, I'd be able to lead a more comfortable life, but at the same time, my sense of intuition and understanding for the arts would also begin to degrade. At that point, any materialistic ease I may have gained in life would just become another form of torment. In comparison, my current life comes with its share of difficulties, but at least I'd never have to deal with that kind of existential reckoning. I appreciate it. You may call me conceited for this, but I would also like to think I'm talented enough to be able to lead a decent life without compromising my pride. It's certainly not easy, but I want to keep at it. My thanks again for being such a great help throughout all of this. I'm planning to pay another visit to those kids tomorrow. Want to come with me? All right, I'll see you tomorrow then. Get some good rest.
I never would have guessed Mr. Alkami was a scammer.
The training center has been shut down, and the Matra have promised to return some of our tuition. But we've already spent so much time on this class. What should we do next?
Mr. Kaveh said we can keep working on our fundamentals and try to get into the academia. Ha! Easier said than done. If it was easier to get into the academia, none of us would have signed up for the class in the first place. Only the best of the best can get into the academia studying on their own. Mr. Kaveh might be willing to teach us.
Why? What reason does he have to stick around?
So, you're the only ones that showed up today, huh?
Huh? Kaveh's here!
Now, that's Mr. Kaveh to you. I'm here as your instructor, so let's keep things a little more proper. I'll keep instructing you for a while longer. You can pass on the message to the other students. As long as someone wants to come, they can join the class. Oh, also, I'm usually pretty busy, so I'll only be able to teach architecture fundamentals on my days off. Another disclaimer, I can't promise that you'll all be able to understand everything I'm going to teach. Architecture is not an easy profession. Aesthetics aside, even the basics of safe design can already be a handful for most people. If you want to design safe buildings, you'll have to go through a systematic study of structural engineering. And just as a heads up, all of this will be a huge step up from the superficial stuff you were learning before. It'll take both talent and perseverance to get through the course. I don't want to hear anyone say that I didn't warn you.
We'll try our best.
It seems some of you are really serious about this after all. All right, everyone, pack your stuff up. No need to prepare much for today's class. We're going to go on a quick field trip. You'll know once we get there. Come on, let's get going. We'll be off once everyone's grabbed their pencils and sketch pads.
Smells like something good is inside.
This lighthouse has been around for a long time, and I handled its renovations when I first graduated from the academia. The point of today is not so much about the lighthouse as a building, however. I just want you to take a look at it and do a bit of self-reflection. If you were tasked today with designing a building, how would you want it to look like? Don't think about how you'd actually go about building it for now. Just put your ideas to paper and draw the prettiest building that comes to your mind.
So, it can be, any kind of building?
Yep, as long as you think it'd look good. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a building. If you want, you can draw trees, the ocean, or even a garden area. Draw whatever you'd like. In my experience, it's best to approach the study of architecture from a point of personal interest, rather than for the sake of a career. Both the study and practice of architectural design are extremely difficult. A person who's forced to work on projects that they don't resonate with will only struggle and suffer. So at least for today, I hope the students will be able to create something that they enjoy. There's no need to think about it too hard. They'll have plenty of time in the future to revisit the design and make changes. What do you think? Want to try your hand at it as well? Don't forget that this is a free class from Mr. Kaveh, the Light of the Ksharawar. On a normal day, this would cost you 300,000 mora.